remember every dog's name. Shadow, the elderly greyhound with a limp but the sweetest eyes. Bella, the hyper-poodle who hated leashes. Max, the golden retriever who waited at the door before I even knocked. For 3 months that summer, I woke up at 5:30 a.m., rain or sun, walking dogs from all across town, saving every penny with a sticky note above my desk. For college. For me. It was the first time I truly felt independent. My parents had said they couldn't help me financially. Times are tight, Dad had muttered with that rehearsed sigh. So I told them I'd figure it out. I made flyers, knocked, on doors, even offered to clean up yards if it helped earn trust. The money slowly piled up. $60 here, $120 there. Until by August, I had close to $3,400 saved. But the money wasn't in a bank. It was in the locked fireproof box in my closet, tucked under old notebooks and a blanket, the only place I trusted. My family had a habit of borrowing without asking. I was careful. Every night, I counted the bills before I slept, until the night I didn't. It was the second week of September when it happened. I'd been so tired from double shifts, walking in the morning and babysitting in the evening, that I didn't do my usual ritual. That was the night everything changed. I walked into the kitchen the next morning to find my mom humming and baking. Mom only bakes for 2 reasons: Christmas or chaos. I opened the fridge, avoiding eye contact when I noticed it. A garment bag, hanging on the dining room chair, white, elegant, embroidered. "Whose is that?" I asked, even though I already knew. "Oh, Emma's," Mom said, almost dreamily. "It came early. Emma, my sister, the younger one, the golden child with a beauty that was always compared to my brains, like you couldn't be both." I swallowed. "Her wedding isn't until November." "I know, but the designer was having a sale, and your father and I thought, why wait?" She laughed like it was nothing. I stared at the bag. I could see part of the lace train peeking out the bottom. Custom, designer, expensive. I asked it slowly. How did you guys afford that?" "Oh, sweetie," she said too softly. "Don't worry about it." And right then, my stomach dropped. I didn't sleep that night. I waited until the house went quiet, snuck into my room and pulled the blanket back. The box was there, but lighter. My hands shook as I opened it. I counted. Twice. $1,740. Missing. Gone. Gone. Like the hours I walked Bella when I had a fever. Gone like the days I skipped lunch just to save another $10. Gone. Like the dreams I had of buying my own textbooks instead of borrowing. I stormed into my parents' room. Dad sat up first. "You used my money?" I said, barely above a whisper. Mom looked at me like I was being dramatic. "We borrowed it, for Emma's special day." "You didn't ask me." "You live here," she said, as if that justified it. "We figured you'd understand. It's not like you're getting married anytime soon." I stood there frozen, barefoot, in an old t-shirt, teeth clenched so tight my jaw ached. I couldn't move, couldn't cry, just turned around and closed the door behind me. But I didn't sleep that night either. Instead, I planned. The next morning, Emma was already parading around the living room with the dress unzipped, half draped on her figure, spinning like she was Cinderella. Mom clapped. Dad recorded a video. I stood by the stairs, arms crossed. No, one noticed I hadn't spoken a word. I just love it, Emma gushed. It's so me, right? Mom reached over to fluff the tool. Only the best for my baby girl. You deserve it. I bit the inside of my cheek until I tasted iron. She deserved it. What had I ever deserved? I went back to my room and pulled out the dog-walking binder I kept. Names, dates, rates, contact info. I flipped through it like it was evidence in a trial. I didn't know what I was going to do yet. But I knew one thing. They expected me to shut up, to accept it, to be the good one. The house turned into a wedding circus over the next few weeks. Invites were printed, thick cardstock with gold foil lettering. Emma's face showed up on my Instagram feed every other day in posed photo shoots with captions like, "Future Mrs. Clayton and my dream dress arrived early." She didn't tag me once. Not even when I held her purse during her makeup trial. Not when I drove her across town because she was too tired to Uber. At dinner one night, Dad mentioned Emma's bachelorette weekend. In Napa Valley. Vineyard. Reservations and a hotel suite with a balcony view. Mom turned to me and said, "You'll stay home to watch the house, right?" Like it wasn't even a question. I started quietly taking things back. Nothing dramatic. I stopped doing Emma's chores. I stopped driving her. I stopped laughing at her jokes. When she complained, I stared at her blankly. And then I got smarter. Took the old USB drive from my drawer and began organizing photos, dog walking sessions, client testimonials, screenshots of Venmo payments. I wrote it all in a document. How much I earned, when, from whom. Then I compared the timeline to the dress order confirmation Emma posted publicly. The date matched exactly 2 days after the cash went missing. Receipts. Dated. Labeled. I wasn't going to confront them yet. Not until I had a plan they couldn't wiggle out of. The tension at home turned into silence. No one talked to me unless they needed something. I heard Mom whisper to Emma one night in the hallway. "She's being difficult lately. So dramatic. She always makes herself the victim." Emma's voice, light and sugar-sweet. "She'll get over it. She always does." They truly believed that. They believed I'd swallow this betrayal like I always had. Like I did when Emma took my spot at summer camp because she had more friends. Or when my parents used my laptop for her class project because she didn't have time. But they were wrong this time. I wasn't a child anymore. One afternoon, while everyone was out, I opened the hallway closet where they kept the wedding documents. Guest list, spreadsheets, catering info, seating arrangements. I found my name on the last sheet. Table 12. With the kids. The kids. I wasn't even allowed a +1, but Emma's college roommate was bringing her third boyfriend in 6 months. I shut the folder. I didn't cry. I smiled. Then I made 2 copies of everything and took the original folder with me. That night, I asked Mom casually, "Did you ever end up paying back the money you borrowed from me?" She frowned. "We told you we'd handle it later." "I'm going to need it back by October." Her tone sharpened. "That's not really fair, honey. This wedding is for family. We're doing this for all of us." "No," I said calmly. "You did it for her." Dad jumped in from the living room. "Watch your tone. We gave you a place to stay. Don't act like you're owed anything." I looked at both of them. "You stole from me," I said. "You don't get to act like I should be grateful. They dismissed me. They always had. But this time, I wasn't going to let it go. I didn't show anger. That's what they expected. A blow-up. Something loud and messy they could twist into overreacting and dismiss. Instead, I got quiet. Focused. The same way I had when I mapped out all those dog-walking routes to fit. The most clients in a day, I started mapping this out. The first move was Leah Carter, one of my favorite dog clients, a retired court clerk with a love for her Shih Tzus and a sharper eye than most detectives. I'd walked her dogs twice a week for months. She'd even tipped me extra when it rained. She answered the phone on the second ring. "Sweetheart, how's college prep?" "I need to ask you something," I said. "Do you remember when I walked Max and Daisy last summer?" "Of course. You even came early on Wednesdays. Do you still have the old Venmo receipts?" She chuckled. "I print everything." "Why?" "I think I'm going to need them soon." There was a long pause. She didn't ask why. She just said, "Come by tomorrow. I'll make tea." That weekend, I started collecting everything. Old payment receipts, texts confirming hours, photos I'd sent clients, even a few kind Yelp reviews people had left on my little dog care page. But that wasn't the move I was most proud of. That came when I booked an appointment with the University Financial Aid Office. I told them, flat out, that my parents had misused funds I'd earned for my education, that I didn't feel safe having my FAFSA tied to them, that I was prepared to file a fraud claim if needed. The woman at the desk, Dana, mid-30s, navy blue glasses and a gentle voice, listened carefully, took notes, and after a long moment said, "You've got receipts. We can escalate this to independent status." I left her office lighter. For the first time in weeks, I felt the air fill my lungs again. Back home, wedding chaos still reigned. Emma had ordered a second veil. The first one wasn't flowy enough. Dad was on the phone with a florist complaining about the wrong color peonies. Mom? She was ironing table runners like her life depended on it. I watched them like a ghost, floating in and out of rooms, untouched by their little empire. They didn't notice when I stopped eating dinner with them. Didn't ask why I hadn't RSVP'd to the wedding. Didn't see me packing a suitcase. Slowly, one piece at a time. Into my car trunk. Then came the final snap, a text from Emma. "Hey, I know you were planning to wear that navy dress to the wedding, but it's kinda too dark. Maybe wear something pastel, or actually maybe just do black pants and blouse. Since you're not in any photos anyway. Lol, love." I stared at the screen, frozen. Then I laughed. Not the bitter kind. The kind you laugh right before you burn something. Down. I called Leah the next morning. "Still got that tea?" I asked. "I've got something stronger," she replied. She handed me a folder filled with printed transactions. Neat, labeled, signed by her. She'd even highlighted the dates in yellow. "Whatever they did to you," she said, "you go make it right." Later that night, I slipped the final envelope under my parents' bedroom door. It held a photocopy of my earnings, the missing money marked, the wedding dress confirmation date circled, and one line at the bottom, "You didn't just borrow my money, you broke something you won't get back." I didn't wait for a reply. The wedding was 2 weeks away. They still thought I'd be there. Still thought I'd sit in the back, in muted clothes, smiling through clenched teeth. But I wasn't planning to be anywhere near it. Not the church. Not the venue. Not even the family. Because by then, I wouldn't be part of it anymore. 2 weeks before the wedding, I left. Not with a slammed door. not in a flurry of bags and curses. Just silence. I packed my car the night before, one box at a time. Clothes, folders, my dog walking binder, the old blanket Mom had made me before high school, folded and placed with a final touch of irony. No one saw me leave. They were too busy fighting over the seating chart. I moved into a shared studio near campus, offered by one of my old clients, whose daughter was studying abroad. Dirt cheap, a little dusty. But it had a lock, a working shower, and peace. For the first time, I could breathe without feeling like I owed someone an apology for existing. The next morning, I turned off my location, sharing, blocked Emma on every platform, removed the family group chat. Then I emailed the university again. Dana responded immediately. Confirmed. Independent status approved. Your new aid package will reflect by next cycle. We believe you. I read that last line 5 times. We believe you. How long had I waited to hear that? The first call from Mom came 3 days later. Straight to voicemail. Sweetheart, we're worried. Why would you leave like this? You're making a scene. It's Emma's big day. Don't ruin it. I didn't respond. Dad followed the next day. His was shorter. This is immature. Grow up. If you don't come back and show some respect, don't expect to be welcome at this house again. That one stung, but not for the reason he thought. He thought I still needed them. What they didn't know was that I'd already made a few moves they'd feel very soon. The first came when I emailed the wedding planner. I introduced myself politely. Attached, screenshots of the texts Emma had sent me. The dress I wasn't supposed to compete with. The seating chart with my name shoved at the bottom like an afterthought. I ended the message with, I respectfully decline to attend. Please remove my name from all materials. I will not be financially or emotionally sponsoring this wedding in any form. Sienna Blake. Week later, I received a copy of the revised guest list from someone who knew the planner personally. My name was gone. No table. No mention. Perfect. But that wasn't all. I had kept one more thing from that envelope I'd slipped under my parents' door. A copy of Grandma June's letter. It had been wedged between pages of old notebooks in the fireproof box. Something I hadn't even realized was there until I emptied it for good. The handwriting stopped me cold. To my Sienna, if they ever try to make you feel small, remember, I saw who you really are. I left you what I could. Don't let them convince you. It's theirs. It was dated a month before she died, and when I took it to the county clerk's office, with Leah's help and a notarized signature match, we found what I feared and hoped, a second will. Filed. Real. Binding. And they never mentioned it. I didn't go public. Not yet, but I made copies. Sent them to 2 lawyers, 1 journalist, and Leah. Just in case. Because I knew once they realized I was serious, once I didn't show up to the rehearsal dinner or the wedding weekend or the big family brunch they planned the day after, they would come hunting, pretending to apologize, pretending it wasn't that bad, pretending to love me. The night before the wedding, I sat in my little studio, watching it all unfold on social media. Emma twirling in her dress, Mom smiling, wine glass in hand. Dad in his tuxedo, looking like the proud patriarch. To me, comments poured in, so beautiful. What a perfect family. Emma, you're glowing. No one asked where I was. No one tagged me. And still, I smiled. because for the first time, they didn't see me as a shadow hovering on the edge of their perfect portrait. I had stepped out of the frame, but I was far from done. The wedding went viral. Literally, Emma's best friend posted a TikTok of the slow-motion bouquet toss with some overused Lana Del Rey audio, and a caption that read, "When the whole fam's perfect and your sister's wedding is a dream." Goals, it got over 320,000 views in 48 hours. People commented on the aesthetic, the dress, the fake laughter. None of them knew the girl behind the camera was missing. No one asked who was not there, but a few locals did, especially one, my old classmate Cassidy, who DM'd me 2 days later. "Didn't you say you saved up all summer for school? Why is your sister wearing that exact dress from Luca's boutique?" Something's off. I replied with just one word: exactly. The letter was next. I didn't send it anonymously. That wasn't my style anymore. I mailed it in a navy blue envelope with gold ink, the same theme Emma used for her wedding invites, and addressed it to my parents' house. Inside was a printed copy of Grandma June's second will, with a sticky note in my handwriting. "You should have opened her last letter. She didn't write it for you to hide." I also included a transcript of the voicemail Mom had left months ago, the one where she mentioned handling Grandma's things before the lawyer arrived, because she had found the letter. She'd just buried it. According to the real will, the lake cabin Grandma owned meant for me. The safe deposit box with old savings bonds meant for me. The inheritance fund split 3 ways meant to go only 2 ways, one to charity, one to me. Emma was never listed. They forged a signature on the simplified version filed with the lawyer. They submitted it quietly, told everyone the estate had nothing left. But Grandma knew, and now I had proof. The fallout didn't happen all at once. First there was silence, then texts. "Mom, we need to talk. Where did you find that version?" "Dad, this is serious, Sienna. You can't just make accusations." "Emma, what are you doing? You're trying to ruin my honeymoon." Now, I didn't reply to any of them. Instead, I forwarded everything to the estate attorney and to Avery Lane, a freelance reporter I'd met through Leah's community board, who specialized in family financial fraud and trust disputes. We met for coffee the next week. I showed her the will, the timeline, and every receipt from the summer I spent dog walking. Her eyes lit up. "This isn't just betrayal," she said. "This is theft. Systemic familial theft." She paused, then smiled, like she'd struck gold. "Tell me everything." Within 2 weeks, Avery published an article titled, "Buried Wills and Broken Trusts, When Families Take More Than Love." It was thorough, discreet. Names slightly changed, but the story, unmistakable to anyone who knew us. The headline took off on Facebook, shared by lawyers, therapists, even college students. Dozens commented things like, "This was my family too. My brother got the house. I got a sorry. She's braver than I ever was. I didn't tell anyone it was about me. Not even when Emma posted a long, teary-eyed Instagram story claiming people were spreading lies about her perfect day, and that some sisters just can't be happy for others." I watched in silence, because I wasn't done. The article wasn't revenge, it was just the opening act. That same week, I filed a motion with the probate court, with my lawyer's help, to formally contest the will based on evidence of forgery and fraud. They would now have to explain, under oath, how the second will had disappeared. They would have to prove Grandma meant for me to receive nothing, despite her letter, her handwriting, her witness-signed documents. I didn't need to scream. The truth was now doing it for me. Back in my studio, the days got quieter. I walked to class, worked my side jobs, breathed fresh adult air, no eggshells underfoot. Sometimes I missed the idea of family, the idea that maybe someday they'd say sorry. But then I'd remember the moment I realized they spent my sweat, my dog, walks, my sunburned days, my skipped lunches, on a gown they called a dream built on my sacrifice. And I'd remember that I had my own dreams now, ones they couldn't steal. The hearing date arrived on a gray Tuesday morning, the kind of overcast that makes everything feel suspended in time. I wore a navy blue blazer I found secondhand for $15. Nothing flashy, just solid, structured, quiet power. I didn't bring anyone with me. No friends. No boyfriend. No emotional support entourage. Just a black leather binder filled with the facts, labeled tabs, receipts, Grandma's handwriting in protective sleeves, a quiet storm that had been building for a year. They were already inside when I arrived. Mom, pale and brittle looking, her usual perfect hair twisted into a too-tight bun. Dad, lips pinched, flipping through a packet like he hadn't already memorized it out of sheer pride. Emma, of course, wasn't there. She was traveling, as her latest Instagram story showed, lounging at some rooftop bar in Miami with a cocktail and the caption, "Detoxing from drama." Of course, when I walked in, Mom actually flinched, like she hadn't believed I'd show, like all this would just disappear if I stayed quiet long enough. But I didn't flinch back. I walked right past them, took my seat next to my attorney, Mr. Harmon, white-haired, calm, the kind of man who wore cufflinks shaped like tiny gavels, and waited. The probate. Judge entered. A woman in her 50s with steel-gray eyes and a voice like a metronome, sharp, unshaken. The courtroom was quiet as she opened the file. "I see we're here to dispute the previously filed will of June Blake, deceased based on..." The emergence of a second document, my lawyer stood. "Yes, Your Honor. A notarized, witnessed will that was intentionally withheld by the respondents." Dad was already shaking his head. Mom started whispering to him, something about how this was being blown out of proportion. The judge raised her hand without looking up. "I'll ask for silence while I read through both submissions." The next few minutes felt like hours. The room was still, just the sound of paper turning. When she finally spoke again, she looked directly at my parents. "This second will is consistent in tone, witness-backed, and signed 4 weeks after the version your counsel submitted. Can you explain the discrepancy?" My father stood slowly. "We were told by our attorney that the first will was final. The second document, we hadn't seen it. We didn't even know it existed." I almost laughed, because the judge turned the page again. And yet the same attorney notarized both. Silence. Dead. Guilty. Silence. After a pause, the judge addressed the court clerk. "This will supersedes the previous one. Assets are to be frozen pending distribution in line with the updated document. A fraud investigation will be opened." My mom's face drained of color. Dad sat down. Hard, I didn't smile. I didn't gloat. I just sat quietly while the wheels turned. Justice was never loud. It was methodical, patient, precise. Outside, I stepped into the cold air and finally exhaled. Mr. Harmon looked at me. "You did well." "Thank you," I said. But my hands were still trembling. Not from fear, from release. That night, I walked to the lake cabin alone. It had been sealed for over a year, untouched. The porch still creaked. The old wind chimes still rattled. The garden was overgrown, but the key was where Grandma always left it, under the third brick near the steps. I turned it slowly. The door opened with a groan. Inside smelled like cedar, old books, and memory. Lit a small candle. Sat on the couch. Let the silence wrap around me. And I cried. Not because I was broken, because I wasn't. Because for the first time, the house I entered was mine. Truly mine. And no one could twist that truth again. The next morning, I woke to birdsong over the lake and light pouring through yellowing curtains. Grandma's Afghan was still draped over the chair by the fireplace. I wrapped it around my shoulders and watched the water, flat and still, like it was listening. The silence was different now. Not empty. Sacred. Later that week, I received an email from the estate attorney's office. Formal confirmation. The lake cabin was now mine. The safe deposit box with Grandma's bonds was being transferred into my name. The remaining assets were being reassessed due to the confirmed willful concealment of the original document. The word willful stood out. They weren't pretending anymore. Not the courts, not the law, not me. It didn't take long for the fallout to reach them. Emma posted a vague story the next day. Family should never come with terms and conditions. People, who sue their parents are broken inside, choose love. The irony nearly knocked the wind out of me. She had worn a wedding dress purchased with the money I earned one dog walk at a time, and somehow I was the villain. I didn't reply, but I did receive a DM later that night. Cassidy. Hey, so I know you probably hate the attention, but everyone's talking about that article being about your family. Are you okay? I stared at it for a moment, then I typed back. I'm more than okay. I'm free. Mom tried again. Voicemail this time. You've made your point, Sienna. Do you feel better now? Tearing this family apart just for some money? You've embarrassed us. You should be ashamed. Ashamed. That word rang in my ears for hours, because that's what they'd always used to keep me small. You should be grateful. You're too sensitive. You're overreacting. You should be ashamed. But I wasn't anymore. I used the bonds from the deposit box to pay off my school debt for the year. Then I signed a deed transfer for the cabin. Quietly. Efficiently. No drama. No spotlight. I painted one of the back rooms a soft eggshell blue and turned it into a writing nook. It was the first space I'd ever owned that wasn't someone else's leftover. I opened my old dog-walking journal and began drafting something new. Not a list of names or schedules. A book. About what it means to be the quiet one in the family, the responsible one, the invisible one, the one they assume will never fight back, until she does. Then came the letter I didn't expect, a small envelope, handwritten, postmarked from a town I didn't recognize. Inside was a single folded note. I was the notary, who signed the second will. Your grandmother insisted it be protected. I remember her words. If they ignore this one, it means they ignored her. She'd be proud of you. Eleanor W. I held the paper to my chest and breathed. For all the noise Emma made, for all the drama Mom spun, for all the silence Dad wielded like a weapon. This was truth, and it didn't need a spotlight to shine. The final twist came 2 weeks later. The article Avery wrote had gained traction. She'd pitched it as a series, and she emailed me, asking for permission to use more of my story, with names this time. "You don't have to," she wrote, "but it could help so many." I thought about it. Then I sent her my full journal. Not just the receipts, not just the legal stuff, but the heart of it, the ache, the silence. The dogs who waited at the door, and the summer sun on my back while my parents called it cute that I worked. I wanted people to feel it, to remember that no one's sacrifice is small just because it's quiet. This time, my name was in it. Sienna Blake, age 19, student, dog walker, daughter, sister, plaintiff. It was raw, honest, beautifully written. Avery didn't sensationalize the pain. She layered it, gave it context, depth, the kind of betrayal that doesn't scream. It sinks into your bones, and the kind of revenge that doesn't destroy. It liberates. It took less than 24 hours for it to go viral. The post was everywhere. Family trauma. TikToks broke it down like a drama series. Therapists quoted the story. Reddit dissected every paragraph. People found my old dog walking ad and left messages of support. And then, the backlash hit them. Someone recognized Emma from the wedding TikToks. Screenshots were shared. The dress, the house, the "choose love" captions. Even someone from our hometown commented under the article. "We always wondered how Emma could afford everything. Now we know." Emma disabled her Instagram account. Mom deleted her Facebook after getting bombarded with comments on old posts. Dad stayed silent, but word got around at his company. One of the board members pulled him aside, apparently asking if the article everyone's talking about was true. It was, and now the world knew. But the part I didn't expect was what came after. Letters, emails, messages, voicemails. Not from them, from strangers. "I cried reading your story. Thank you. My brother stole my trust fund. I thought I was alone. Your quiet strength gave me permission to stop," explaining myself. Even Leah called again, her voice soft with pride. "You turned something poisonous into medicine," she said. "Not everyone knows how." I didn't respond to most of them. Not because I didn't care, but because I was learning how to hold peace without having to prove I deserved it. One night, I sat at the lake cabin, legs tucked under the quilt, laptop open, and I typed, "My family used to tell me I should be grateful. For a roof I paid for food I bought, for silence I was forced into. But gratitude isn't the same as obedience, and love isn't real if it demands your voice in exchange." That became the opening chapter of my book. Weeks passed. Fall arrived. The air sharpened. Leaves burned gold. No one from my family called again. No apology. No reckoning. Just distance and silence. But I had something better now. Myself. My truth. My story. I named the book, "The Quiet One Doesn't Stay Quiet." It sold modestly at first, but then a podcast featured it, then a few schools reached out, asking if I could speak to students about boundaries, independence, and financial abuse. Said yes, not for the spotlight, but because there was a girl somewhere, alone in her room, staring at an empty envelope where her future was supposed to be. And I wanted her to know. You're not crazy. You're not selfish. You're not ungrateful. You're awake. One day, while organizing papers in the cabin, I found a forgotten envelope tucked behind an old drawer. Grandma's handwriting again. If you're reading this, they probably broke your heart. But sweetheart, don't give it back to them to fix. Keep it safe, guard it well, and when you're ready, rebuild it on your own terms. I cried, again. But this time, it felt like rain on dry soil. I'm not angry anymore, not even bitter. Because some stories end with a door slammed shut. Mine ended with a door opening. On a house they never believed I'd own. On a voice they tried to erase. And on a life they will never be able to rewrite.